Just a quick question about how you feel about drilling in the Arctic refuge.
Totally opposed to it. Completely, totally
Excellent.
opposed to it. And I think I'm the only one, maybe not the only one running, who's been up in the Arctic Circle. Remember the great oil spill that occurred? And I watched when I went up there, and I went up in a helicopter up on the North Slope and saw what was going on and saw what was happening as the glaciers began to melt and how the caribou and everyone, there's a lot going on up there. And it's a real gigantic problem. And by the way, no more drilling on federal lands, period. Well, the Arctic Circle is a disaster to do that. A big disaster, in my view.
The way we were back when we needed people's votes and we couldn't just rub it in their faces like we can now. That was then candidate Biden back in 2020, claiming that he would oppose Arctic drilling. And it looks like this week, that has been a complete reversal. In fact, he forgot that promise and he has approved a major drilling operation in the North Slope of Alaska. That is called the Willow Project. This is a $7 billion gas drilling project. And it is a pared down, but similar aims of it's a ConocoPhillips operation. The administration signaled that it had few legal options, however, but to approve Willow, given that the oil giant ConocoPhillips has the lease rights for the region that date back to the late 1990s. Remember, a lot of these lands have already been sold. It's just that these companies don't actually excavate. They don't actually pump oil out of it. They don't drill yet because they don't need to. Why would they when they can charge us whatever the hell they want to at the pump? And look, it's kind of a benefit. Hey, keep it in the ground. That's what I say. That's what a lot of activists and organizations say as well. But let's continue. Quote, this was an existing project that the US government had already given ConocoPhillips the rights to the reserves, and they would have lost in court. That is, the Biden administration would have lost in court had they been sued and forced to greenlight this project. That's from Army Myers Jaff, Director of Energy, Climate Justice, and Sustainability. And I did check, and Deborah Haaland also spoke on this very, very difficult decision, and effectively agreed that it was a hard one to make, but that ultimately, because this was a pre-existing lease, they had to go forward with it. Before I kick it to you, Jackson, let's just find out what this is. So the Willow Project is currently the largest proposed project on US public land. Again, public land. Alaska Republican Senator Dan Sullivan said the development could be one of the biggest, most important resource development projects in our state's history. Project could produce 180,000 barrels of oil a day. Yay! About 1.5% of the total US production. Oh, that's not that much. ConocoPhillips Alaska had proposed 5 drilling sites as part of the project. The US Bureau of Land Management approved 3, which said it would include up to 199 total wells. ConocoPhillips Alaska said it welcomed Monday's decision. The company also agreed to give up rights to 68,000 acres in existing leases within the National Petroleum Reserve Alaska, where Willow is located. So a little bit of a, okay, give me back your pieces. What's that behind your hand? Come on now, come on, give me a hand. He's like, okay, here you go. So there was a trade, little tradesies. Is it fair? Is it good? The action reduces the project's freshwater use. However, it does mitigate the impact, eliminates all infrastructure related to 2 rejected drill sites, including approximately 11 miles of roads, 20 miles of pipelines, 133 acres of gravel, all which reduces potential impacts to caribou migration and subsistence users, the US Interior Department said. Again, that's a Deb Haaland situation. And she did say precisely that there are steps being taken to mitigate the impact. Jackson, just your reaction on this development.
I remember when this happened, I got a notification on my phone. The first one said the Biden administration said they weren't going to do this. And then like maybe an hour later, it was like, no, we're going to go ahead and do that. It was just some type of correction. But the thing about pipelines, I mean, it's a drilling project now, turned into a pipeline. Pipelines break all the time. They rupture all the time. We know this is going to happen. It's not something that can be avoided. So obviously there's plenty of environmental destruction that comes along with these types of projects. Also, we have clean energy projects that we could be investing in that we aren't. And at the end of the day, Joe Biden, and we talked a little bit about this before the show started, you can't really can't really put too much emotional energy into when Joe Biden does things like this, because he's been doing this his entire career. It wasn't that long ago where he was on camera, when I mean, in my lifetime, I think it was around the time when he was running against Barack Obama, when he said that we have to cut Social Security. Wasn't that in 2012 when he said that, I think, that we have to do something about Social Security? Joe Biden is a conservative, so this is not surprising whatsoever. But at the end of the day, we put him in office. You know what I'm saying? So this is what we got. But we got an election coming up. We don't know exactly who's going to be running on the Democratic side. Probably not that many people till 2028, because incumbencies are just hard to take out. They just are. And unless someone as big as Bernie Sanders runs, then they're just not going to have the money. But
don't say that name. That's a trigger for me. Big trigger.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But it's just, this is something that we're just going to have to continue to fight for, not just in presidential elections, but in all of our local elections. Get more involved in our communities and just volunteer more. It really is going to come down to the people, because anyone who's remotely like Biden or a corporate Democrat, they're not going to help us.
Yeah, I mean, there have been victories, obviously, Keystone XL pipeline being canceled. Then there's Line 5, which has replaced that worry. But they keep on cropping up, and we have to keep on fighting and resisting them. And actually, folks specifically on TikTok, which I'm reading as young people, have done exactly that when it comes to the hashtag Stop Willow campaign. So environmentalists have made it a top priority at Graphic 9. And in recent weeks, young activists have launched this Stop Willow TikTok campaign to apply further pressure. And just to show you how much this Willow Project is resonating online, look at this change.org petition. 3.9 million signatures on this to stop this Willow Project. There's some caribou there, baby caribou. I mean, honestly, I will sign anything that has a baby caribou on it, and everybody knows that. And I do not read it if it has that baby caribou. Obviously, environmentalists are recommitting to fighting this. But you see Senator Lisa Murkowski, she's happy about it. She tweeted, "We did it, Alaska. I'm so relieved that an economically viable Willow Project is being area approved. What a huge and needed victory for all of Alaska. This project will produce lasting economic security benefits for our state and the nation." And I think this is where I get upset, because look, fossil fuels have been used by state leaders, legislators on a federal level, as leverage for bringing jobs, for economic infusion, for opportunity and all this. And yet at the same time, they are literally choking our communities to death. We are dying. We are dooming ours and future generations. We are completely abusing the land, drying up resources, and slowly killing ourselves. So is that a good trade-off for a few jobs that probably are more like, like 50 to 100 jobs, if that? Like, we cannot live in a country that has only opportunities for employment in either fossil fuels or prisons. That's not a place that I want to be. And yet that is the reality in many, many, many states. And so again, when we call for ways to infuse this country with cash, i.e. dropping student debt, which will alleviate people, which will not strap people with that, infuse total infusion into the economy, people starting businesses, people investing locally, all of the ways that we can invest in our communities and find that money. No, we got to do it by extracting oil and giving most of the lion's share to a private corporation that knew this was killing us from jump, and then they kept on doing it.
The silent hand of the market, that's all it is.
Yeah.
And the irony is, the same people, as you pointed out, for the future generations, we're messing up the land, the environment, the ecosystem. And the same people who like Murkowski, who you just put up, who was like totally in favor of this, but they'll also make the argument, we got to cut Social Security, man. We got to get rid of Medicare because our grandchildren, we got to think about it. The planet, who cares? But money, that's what matters.
Yeah, exactly. When my great grandchild is clutching to a board floating in just a massive, like once in a generation flood, I feel like she's gonna be saying, "Oh, what about the deficit? Oh,
100%, 100%, because that's going to rebuild the infrastructure right in that moment. That's going to put food in her belly. So that's exactly what she'll be worried about.
For sure. She was like, at least we balanced the books.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.